Okay, students, welcome back. Nice to see you again. This section is going to be the first section that we're starting on sharks. And this is kind of an extensive section dealing with many different things. You're going to learn some words that you've never heard before, or I don't think you've heard before. And like a synapse. What the heck? And we're going to hear words like ampules of Lorenzini. Something like what? But anyway, those are kind of some of the things we're going to cover, but we're going to cover a lot of other things about sharks. Now, a lot of times sharks are something that people really think of as terrible things that are coming after us all the time and looking to eat us. One of the movies, Jaws, if any of you have seen that, kind of really scared a lot of the people in the United States about sharks, and people don't really understand them. But sharks have been around for millions and millions of years. They go back in some cases to 20 million years where they've lived on Earth. So they have survived because they are one of the perfect machines or animals, but that they eat and live and feed and create babies that are called pups. And because they're so good at it, they last and have been able to last for millions of years. Now, some of the other things that have lasted for millions of years, kind of let you know, is creatures like this. This has not lived. This is an extinct creature, a trilobite, and it was an arthropod, kind of like a pill bug. Now, one of the differences between a pill bug, as you know, or what we call a roly-poly, is it's a little tiny thing that you play with and touch with your fingers. Well, back in those days, this is kind of a really example of a fossil. And you can see how big this is. If we took, for example, my finger next to it, you can see how big my finger is. Or, here's a pencil, and you can see how big this was. This isn't something that you'd play with on the playground at school. I think if everyone saw this they would be running away from it. And some of the different examples, this is another little smaller example of what one looked like. And again, these are extinct, but there's some things that have lasted through all of the millions of years because they've been so perfect that have not been extinct. Like this creature. Now, I don't know whether you can see this. I'm going to hold this up here. This is an example of what's called a horseshoe crab. And I happen to get this on the east coast of the United States. Back there, they're on the beach quite a bit. You can find them if you look. And it's kind of an unusual thing. And it looks prehistoric because it kind of is prehistoric. It's gone through millions of years. And because it's adapted to present day, it's still alive today. Now, some things that were alive millions of years ago aren't, like the trilobites. And this creature actually has some really rough things along the edge here that you can see a little bit. And this would help protect itself. So, nothing would step on it. And they could articulate or put this spine straight up in the air like this. I can't do it now because this has been frozen, so we can protect it. But they could put this straight up in the air, so if you went to step down, you would step on the barb. So this again is something that's been around for millions of years and still exists today. Now, some of the things that aren't around anymore today, some of the other creatures would be things like this. Now, this are two creatures that were around, and you'll see things like there's a movie out, if you've seen it, called The Meg. And megalodons were a fish. They're not a whale, they're a fish, and they were a giant prehistoric shark, kind of like a great white shark, but they were probably around 50 foot long or so. And they were really nasty. They would go after whales, and they'd go after things. And this was called a giant mosasaur. And this was almost as long as the great white, or what we now call a great white, but was the megalodon. And this was pretty nasty creature. like a giant saltwater crocodile, but much, much bigger. And this creature had some really nasty teeth. Kind of give you an idea, this was the head of the mosasaur. And the mosasaur had giant teeth and was huge. And again, this was another little, if you can see here, a picture, kind of a little drawing of a mosasaur attacking a whale. They would go after pretty much things, and they would also get in fights with megalodons. Now, the megalodons back then had pretty big teeth. The megalodons, kind of like the great white shark today, and the mako shark and some of the other sharks we'll talk about, have teeth that constantly rotate through, and they're always slanted backwards, many of the shark species. So something that goes in here gets locked and cannot pull back out. Now, the mosasaur was a pretty nasty predator, and to kind of give you an idea, this is a section of a jawbone of the mosasaur. And if you can see this, they had some pretty nasty teeth. And this is only a small section of the mosasaur jaw. They really were giant. And they're not around anymore. They're extinct. But some of the teeth from the megalodon looked like this. And these are megalodon teeth. And you can see, for example, again, this is a pencil, and you could see how big the megalodon teeth are. They are big. You could see here, they're pretty substantial. And to give you an idea, here's a ruler, and you can get an idea. This one is about 6 inches long. So they are giant. So these guys would fight. The mosasaur would have teeth like this, and the megalodon would have teeth like this. And these guys would be in battles all the time. They would fight, and it must have been quite something. But they're not on Earth any longer. This is another example of one of the smaller shark teeth that were available at that time. But this wasn't from a megalodon. But again, it's pretty substantial. Now, to kind of give you an idea of what the megalodon jaw looked like, this is a reconstruction using actual teeth of the megalodon jaw. And you could see the person standing there and the size of the jaw. So the jaw bone itself, or not bone, it's cartilage, because sharks don't have bone, they have cartilage. And where do you think on our bodies we have cartilage? You're right, in our ears and our nose. Those are a couple of places that have cartilage. And things like our arms and our legs have actual bones. So the jaw of this is made of cartilage, but the teeth were really from a megalodon. So you could see, you don't have to worry about that shark biting you. He could just swallow you whole. He could take a couple of students and just have a little snack. So, but they're not around any longer. Now, some of the fish that are still around, sharks, here's a picture of a great white shark. Now you can see how big this shark is. It is giant. If you take a look at the person next to the shark and take a look at the shark, they are big. And actually great whites grow bigger than this. Now, great white sharks are on the protected species list. That means you cannot mess with great white sharks. You cannot catch them. You cannot interfere with them. You can look at them, that's okay, but you can't hit them with something or hook them or try to catch them any longer. That's something that's prohibited. So we generally leave them alone. Now, I surf once in a while, and a lot of times as a surfer, you'll be afraid of sharks. You'll constantly think about sharks in the lineup, or what they call a lineup, and you'll worry about one coming and attacking you. And sometimes over the many years I've surfed, sometimes I'll think about sharks all the time, and sometimes I won't. But here's an example of something that kind of looks like this surfer was going like, uh-oh, what's that thing? But really, this is just a big giant dolphin in the actual wave. It isn't a great white shark or any other types of shark. And you can tell because the tail goes vertically, not it doesn't go vertically, excuse me, it goes horizontally, not like a shark tail would. And you can also tell from the dorsal fin on it. But generally, wherever there's dolphin, there are not sharks. Generally, dolphin have protected humans in the past. They've actually come up and bumped into great white sharks and kind of taken them away from swimmers and other things and protected them. So they generally hit them with their snout, their nose to ward them off, but they generally protect humans and are something. When you see dolphins, you can generally be assured that there's no sharks around. Okay. So we're going to take a break for just a quick second. Okay, so we're going to end this one section on sharks. And I just wanted to show you, this was a mako shark that we caught at one time. We actually tagged and released this mako. But again, if you look at the teeth on this, they're really nasty. These teeth all go back in. And as we'll discuss later on and show more, the teeth in the sharks fold downward like this and constantly come out and replace themselves. So if a tooth gets damaged or a tooth gets dull, or if it bites something and it falls out, it's no problem. It has way more just coming available. So we're going to take a break for now, and I will see you during the next section on sharks. And we're going to take a look at some unusual types of species of sharks. And thanks for paying attention.